Today is 21st of June 2022. My name is Emeka Ogwonye, reporting on behalf of Ekulo News. We are in Abuja at the moment, waiting to commence the second day of full trial in the case of Peter Nwachukwu, the husband of the famous artist Osinachi Nwachukwu, who died recently, and her husband is now standing trial for domestic violence related offenses and for murder, which in Abuja is called culpable homicide. Full trial commenced yesterday, and the prosecution was able to take two of their witnesses. They were examined in chief, and they were both cross-examined by the defense team. The two witnesses for the prosecution that were put in yesterday were Ms. Caroline Madu, the mother of Osinachi, a 61-year-old woman who was frail and sick, testified in court and gave her evidence as to what she thought killed her daughter and what she thought was the role of her son-in-law Peter Nwachukwu in the death of Osinachi Nwachukwu. The second witness, prosecution witness, was Miss Favor Nwachukwu, one of the sisters of Osinachi. She too gave her testimony in chief and was cross-examined. The court was packed yesterday. There was a clear reflection of massive public interest in this case, and Ekulo News was here at hand to witness what happened, to make appropriate observations, and to report back to our audience. After yesterday's trial, that is, after the examination of two prosecution witnesses, the court adjourned to continue today by 12 noon, today being the 21st of June. From what we heard, the prosecution is trying to put in the witness box today 3 additional witnesses. It is rather surprising that in a case as serious as this, witnesses could be processed so quickly. We had expected that the first witness, especially a witness that needed interpreters, would take hours to be examined in chief and cross-examined. Surprisingly, it all ended within 35 minutes. So that begins to tell you something. If you are familiar with criminal trial, it begins to tell you the scope of the testimonies. What did the first witness actually say? What did she testify? She testified mostly about the cruelty and wickedness, if you may, of her son-in-law. We all were looking to hear testimonies about domestic violence, events, timeline, periods, occasions, when there was a clear act of domestic violence witnessed directly by the testifying witness. We didn't hear that. We didn't hear that at all. We heard the opinions, the views, the assumptions, and the imagination of the witness. The defense did a good job. There was no need to go into elaborate issues. Focus the cross-examination on issues raised in examination in chief. So the prosecution was very clever in pointing out, the defense, I beg your pardon, the defense was very clever in pointing out that all the witnesses testified about was either something they assumed or something they heard from someone else. It was very, very clear. So, with such a pinpointed questioning, it was easy for the defense to complete cross-examination in less than 15 minutes. And that happened with the first witness, that happened with the second witness. So today we are going to see 3 additional witnesses. And we are wondering, who are these witnesses? What are they likely to testify? Will they be testifying about acts of domestic violence Or are they going to be testifying about what they heard, or what they assumed, or what they imagined? So, we are expecting that one of Osinachi's other siblings will testify today. It might be the one who was said to have witnessed one incident, the only incident recounted, where Peter Nwachukwu slapped his wife some time back and poured water on her in a car while they were driving to their village. So, that was one of the siblings who was said to have witnessed it, and who was said to have told Favor. And Favor was the one that testified yesterday. But when Favor testified about that slapping incident, she was really not a competent witness. It was a hearsay testimony because Favor admitted that she was not there. However, that the other sister who was there informed them later. So probably that sister who was said to have been there will come today. And when she comes today, she will probably say, yes, I witnessed an instance of domestic violence, a slap. Very well. She will be cross-examined very thoroughly, I am sure. And we wouldn't know how that particular testimony will hold in cross-examination. But let's make it clear. Even if Favor, even if the sister succeeds in convincing the court that on one occasion, at a time in the past, Peter slapped his wife, that will be one proven instance of domestic violence. But that will not be evidence of murder. Also, it's going to depend on the timeline. When did this happen? If it happened so long in the past, the court may doubt the accuracy of the testimony being given by this particular witness. So, that's what you can expect. We're also expecting that the prosecution may try to put the children of the Nwachukwus on the witness box. That is something very dicey and delicate. You know why? Because the first of the 4 children is only 12 years old. The second is 10 years old. The third is 9 years old. And the fourth is 7 years old. These children are too young to testify credibly and to sustain the pressure of cross-examination. This is the problem with the testimony of children generally in law. When you're dealing with testimony of children, you have to fear. You have to be sensitive to a number of factors. The first factor is that children are generally honest because they don't have intention to be malicious. Children don't really have any particular thing to gain out of any particular testimony, their testimonies. So they tend to be honest. However, children are not very credible because their ability to observe and their ability to interpret events could be a problem. And thirdly, children are susceptible to manipulation and undue influence. These children have been in the custody of the same sisters of Osinachi who are now peddling these stories against Peter Nwachukwu and supplying these extremely wild stories of domestic violence to the social media. The same sisters who also went to Peter's house, packed all his properties, took his 2 cars, took everything in the house, and now saying in court that one of the cars was a car that Osinachi promised to their mother. So the same sisters that have seized the properties of Peter and the same sisters that are planning, that came out in testimony yesterday, planning to change the last name of these children to their own name. That is Osinachi Nwachukwu's maiden name, Madu. The same sisters have been with these young children. It is reasonable to believe that these children have been under a severe barrage of indoctrination and brainwashing. So they will be coming to testify not necessarily what they witnessed, but what they were told. So bear that in mind, and today we are going to see more about this trial. And Eculo News will supply additional information and updates as the case goes on. Thank you for listening.